A routine traffic stop turns shocking when a police officer spits in the face of a mysterious woman. Believing he's untouchable, he is left in disbelief by her next move. Who is she, and why does his world collapse moments later? It was a sunny afternoon in downtown Chicago, where the streets buzzed with life. Cars honked impatiently, pedestrians scurried across crosswalks, and the hum of urban chaos was ever present. Among the crowd was Monica Allen, a composed and professional woman dressed impeccably in a navy blue blazer and slacks, clutching her leather briefcase. Monica had always been someone who demanded respect without raising her voice. She was no stranger to adversity, but nothing could have prepared her for what was about to happen that day. Monica had just stepped out of her car, parked in front of a bustling courthouse, ready to handle yet another high-stakes case. She adjusted her hair, took a deep breath, and started walking toward the courthouse steps. It was a routine she had mastered: poise, confidence, and an unwavering determination to deliver justice. But as fate would have it, her usual path collided with someone who would forever regret underestimating her. As Monica approached the crosswalk, a commotion caught her attention. A police officer, his face flushed with anger, was shouting at a young black man who appeared to be in his early 20s. The young man, wearing a hoodie and jeans, stood motionless, his hands raised in surrender, his voice trembling as he tried to explain himself. "Don't talk back to me, boy," the officer barked, his hand dangerously close to his holster. Monica's stomach churned. She had seen countless cases of abuse of power, but witnessing it firsthand felt different. It was personal. She stopped in her tracks, debating whether to intervene. Not today, she thought. Not on my watch. She approached the officer calmly, her heels clicking against the pavement. "Excuse me, officer," she began, her voice steady but firm. "What seems to be the issue here?" The officer turned to her, his expression twisting into one of disdain. "Mind your business, lady. This doesn't concern you." Monica stood her ground. When someone's civil rights are being violated, it concerns all of us. The officer's eyes narrowed, and before Monica could say another word, he did the unthinkable. With a sneer, he leaned forward and spat directly in her face. The action was as shocking as it was vile, and for a moment, time seemed to freeze. Gasps erupted from the small crowd that had gathered. Monica's face remained stoic as she wiped the spit off with a tissue she pulled from her pocket. But the fire in her eyes was unmistakable. She refused to be rattled, even as the humiliation of the moment sank in. The officer smirked, clearly underestimating the woman before him. "What's the matter? Cat got your tongue?" he mocked, drawing laughter from one of his colleagues nearby. Monica didn't respond. Instead, she reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone, dialing a number with precision. The officer's smirk faded as he noticed the sudden shift in her demeanor. "Good afternoon," Monica said into the phone. "This is Judge Monica Allen. I'm standing outside the courthouse, where an incident involving Officer Isaac needs immediate attention. I'll need internal affairs on this immediately." The officer's jaw dropped. "Judge?" His mind raced as he connected the dots. Monica Allen wasn't just anyone. She was one of the most respected and feared judges in the city, known for her zero-tolerance stance on corruption and discrimination. And now, she was staring him down like a hawk locking onto its prey. The crowd began murmuring as Monica put her phone away, her eyes never leaving the officers. "You'll want to call your supervisor," she said coolly. "You'll need a lawyer." The officer stammered, trying to justify his actions. I didn't know who you were," he muttered, his confidence evaporating. Monica raised an eyebrow. "You didn't need to know who I was. You needed to know how to respect another human being." The once bustling sidewalk was now eerily quiet, as if the weight of the moment had stolen the city's usual noise. The officer, Isaac, stood frozen, his earlier arrogance replaced with visible fear. Monica's declaration had turned the tables in an instant, and the murmurs among the onlookers were growing louder. Smartphones were raised, recording every second of the escalating drama. "Please," Monica said firmly, her gaze locking on Isaac, "put your weapon away. You've done enough damage for one day." Isaac hesitated, his hand still hovering near his holster, but the authority in Monica's voice left no room for argument. Slowly, He unclipped his holster and stepped back. The crowd erupted into hushed whispers, some gasping at the sheer audacity of what they had just witnessed. "I need your badge number," Monica continued, her tone calm but cutting like a blade. "Now." Isaac fumbled with his words. "Oh, look, Your Honor, I didn't mean anything by it. I thought—" "You thought you could abuse your power and face no consequences," Monica interrupted, her voice sharp and unwavering. "And you thought wrong." Isaac reluctantly recited his badge number as Monica typed it into her phone. With each digit, the weight of his actions seemed to sink further into his shoulders. Monica made another quick call. This time, her voice was crisp and professional. "This is Judge Monica Allen. I need a patrol sergeant at the courthouse entrance immediately. We have a situation involving Officer Isaac, badge number 47219. I'll explain more when they arrive." The onlookers step in. As Monica ended the call, one of the onlookers, a middle-aged black woman, stepped forward. "You're a judge?" she asked, her voice trembling with both surprise and respect. Monica turned to her and nodded. "Yes, ma'am. And I believe it's my responsibility to hold people accountable, no matter their badge or title." The woman clutched her chest, tears forming in her eyes. "We need more people like you," she said, her voice cracking. "Thank you for standing up." Her words seemed to galvanize the crowd. More voices joined in, expressing their support and sharing their own stories of mistreatment at the hands of law enforcement. It was a moment of collective catharsis, the kind that only happens when someone dares to challenge the status quo. Meanwhile, Isaac's partner, who had been silent until now, took a hesitant step forward. "Judge Allen," he began, his voice low, "I want to apologize on behalf of—" "You'll have your chance," Monica cut him off. "Save your apologies for the hearing. Today isn't about excuses. It's about accountability." The partner nodded, his face a mix of shame and relief that he hadn't escalated the situation further. Isaac, on the other hand, looked as though the ground might swallow him whole. The arrival of reinforcements. Within minutes, a police cruiser pulled up to the scene, its siren piercing through the tense atmosphere. A sergeant stepped out, his expression a mix of confusion and concern as he approached Monica. "Judge Allen," he greeted, clearly recognizing her. "What's going on here?" Monica recounted the events in detail, her tone measured but unyielding. She left no room for doubt or misinterpretation, describing Isaac's actions and the clear violation of both protocol and human decency. The sergeant turned to Isaac, his face darkening. "Is this true?" he asked, his voice heavy with disbelief. Isaac stammered, his earlier bravado completely gone. I didn't mean." "She's got video evidence," one of the bystanders interrupted, holding up their phone. "We all do." The sergeant sighed heavily, his shoulders slumping under the weight of the situation. "Officer Isaac, hand over your badge and firearm. You're relieved of duty pending an investigation." The crowd erupted in applause, their cheers echoing through the street. Isaac's face turned pale as he unfastened his badge and handed it over. The sergeant's expression was grim as he took it, a moment of reflection. As Isaac was escorted to the patrol car, Monica turned her attention back to the young man who had been the officer's original target. He was standing off to the side, his hands still trembling slightly. "Are you okay?" she asked gently, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. The young man nodded, though his voice was shaky. "I didn't do anything wrong," he said. "I was just walking to work." Monica's heart ached at the fear in his eyes. "I know," she said softly, "and I'll make sure this doesn't go unnoticed." Before she could say more, a woman emerged from the crowd, rushing toward them. "Marcus," she cried, wrapping her arms around the young man. "Are you okay? I saw everything on Facebook Live." Monica raised an eyebrow, realizing that the incident had already gone viral. The power of social media was undeniable, and in this case, it was working in their favor. As Marcus and his mother embraced, Monica took a step back, allowing them a moment of privacy. She glanced around at the crowd, their faces filled with a mix of hope and determination. This was more than just a single incident. It was a call to action, a reminder that change begins with courage. The courthouse steps were bathed in the glow of the late afternoon sun as Monica walked inside, carrying the weight of the day's events. Social media was already ablaze with videos of the confrontation. Each clip added fuel to a growing fire of public outrage. The hashtags #Justice for Marcus and #Hold them accountable trending across multiple platforms. Inside the courthouse, Monica's phone buzzed incessantly with messages. Some were from colleagues, expressing support and shock. Others were from community members who had witnessed or heard about what had happened. But Monica didn't have time to stop and respond. A pressing matter awaited her: Isaac's accountability hearing. The hearing begins. The courtroom was silent as Isaac sat at the defendant's table, his usual uniform replaced with plain clothes. His partner sat beside him, head bowed, clearly uneasy about the day's proceedings. The gallery was packed with reporters, community members, and civil rights advocates. Monica's presence as the presiding judge sent a clear message. This would not be swept under the rug. "Officer Isaac," Monica began, her voice steady and firm, "you are here today to answer for your actions, which have been widely documented and witnessed by many. This court is determined to ensure that justice is served." The prosecution presented the video evidence, showing Isaac spitting at Monica and verbally attacking Marcus. Each frame was like a dagger, cutting through the hollow excuses Isaac's defense attempted to put forward. The courtroom murmured in disgust at the undeniable footage. The community speaks. One of the most powerful moments came when Marcus, the young man who had been harassed, took the stand. Dressed in a simple suit, he looked both nervous and determined. "I was just walking to work," he began, his voice trembling slightly. "I didn't think anything of it when I saw the officer at first. But then, he started shouting at me, accusing me of things I didn't do." He paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. "I've always been taught to respect the police, but in that moment, I didn't feel safe. I felt like I was being targeted because of the color of my skin." The room fell silent, his words hanging heavy in the air. Monica watched Isaac closely, noticing the faintest flicker of guilt in his eyes. Marcus's testimony was followed by several community members who recounted their own experiences with discrimination. Their stories painted a broader picture of systemic issues, making it clear that Isaac's actions were not isolated incidents. When it was Isaac's turn to speak, his voice was barely audible. I made a mistake," he stammered. "I wasn't thinking. I let my emotions get the better of me." Monica's gaze was unyielding. "A mistake, Officer Isaac, is forgetting to fill out paperwork. What you did was abuse your power, disrespect a civilian, and undermine the trust placed in you as a law enforcement officer. This court doesn't take such actions lightly." Isaac's lawyer tried to argue for leniency, citing the officer's years of service and the stress of the job. But Monica wasn't swayed. "Your years of service make your actions even more inexcusable," she replied. "You had the experience and the training to know better." As the hearing progressed, it became evident that this wasn't just about one officer. It was about a system that allowed such behavior to go unchecked. Monica used the platform to highlight the need for reform, calling on law enforcement agencies to prioritize accountability and rebuild trust within the communities they serve. When the verdict was finally delivered, suspension without pay pending further investigation, and mandatory diversity training, the courtroom erupted in a mix of applause and murmurs. It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was a step in the right direction. Outside the courthouse, Marcus stood with his mother, surrounded by reporters. He looked to Monica, who was speaking to another group of journalists. "Judge Allen," a reporter asked, "what do you hope comes from today's events?" Monica paused, her expression thoughtful. "I hope it reminds people that no one is above the law, not even those who enforce it. And I hope it encourages others to stand up and speak out when they see injustice. Change begins with accountability." Her words echoed through the crowd, sparking a sense of hope and determination among those gathered. As Monica walked away, she couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. The journey wasn't over, but this was a pivotal moment, proof that even the smallest acts of courage could create ripples of justice. Overnight, the story gained national traction. News outlets broadcasted the courtroom footage alongside interviews with Marcus and other community members. Social media erupted, with calls for broader police reform trending across all platforms. Messages of solidarity poured in from across the country, with people sharing similar stories of injustice. Monica's phone buzzed with a call from her longtime friend, Aaron, a civil rights attorney. "Monica," Aaron said, her voice filled with urgency, "this case is just the tip of the iceberg. We need to take this momentum and push for real change. The community is rallying behind you. Let's not let this moment slip away." Monica agreed. She knew that real change required action, not just words. She and Aaron began organizing a community forum, inviting local leaders, law enforcement officials, and activists to discuss actionable steps toward accountability and reform. Meanwhile, Isaac was undergoing his own transformation. After the hearing, he was placed on mandatory leave, his badge and gun temporarily confiscated. For the first time in years, he had time to reflect on his actions. Sitting alone in his small apartment, he scrolled through the flood of criticism and outrage online. But among the angry comments, one message stood out. It was from Marcus. "Officer Isaac," it read, "I don't hate you. I just want you to see me, not as a suspect, but as a person. I hope this experience helps you understand what people like me go through every day." The words hit Isaac like a punch to the gut. He realized the depth of the harm he'd caused, not just to Marcus, but to an entire community. Determined to make amends, he reached out to a local community leader and asked to participate in a public dialogue about systemic racism and policing. The community forum was held in the same courtroom where Isaac had stood trial. The room was packed, with people of all ages and backgrounds eager to share their stories and ideas. Marcus and Monica sat side by side, their presence a powerful reminder of the case that had sparked this movement. Isaac stood at the podium, visibly nervous. "I don't expect forgiveness," he began, his voice shaky but sincere. "What I did was wrong, and I take full responsibility for my actions. I'm here because I want to listen, to learn, and to be part of the solution." His words were met with cautious applause. For many, it was a step toward healing. The forum lasted for hours, with community members sharing their experiences and proposing solutions. Ideas ranged from implementing body cameras and de-escalation training to establishing independent oversight committees. Monica and Aaron took detailed notes, vowing to push for these changes at the policy level. In the weeks that followed, Monica's courtroom became a symbol of justice and accountability. Marcus, now an advocate for police reform, worked closely with Monica and Aaron to create educational programs aimed at bridging the gap between law enforcement and the community. Isaac, too, began to rebuild his life. He volunteered at local community centers and spoke openly about his mistakes, using his story as a cautionary tale for others in law enforcement. One day, Marcus and Isaac crossed paths at a community event. The tension between them was palpable, but Marcus extended his hand. "Thank you for trying," he said simply. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. Monica watched from the sidelines, a sense of pride swelling in her chest. What had started as a painful confrontation had grown into a movement, a testament to the power of courage, accountability, and compassion. In a televised interview, a reporter asked Monica, "Do you believe we'll ever see true equality in our justice system?" Monica's response was firm. "I believe we can, but it requires all of us, judges, officers, citizens, to commit to doing the hard work. Change doesn't happen overnight, but every step we take brings us closer to justice." Her words resonated far and wide, inspiring countless others to take action in their own communities. The final scene. As Monica returned home that evening, she found a handwritten note on her doorstep. It was from Marcus. "Judge Allen," it read, "thank you for believing in me. You've shown me that even in the darkest times, there's light to be found. I hope one day I can make as much of a difference as you have." Tears welled in Monica's eyes as she read the words. She folded the note carefully, placing it in her desk drawer, a reminder of why she fought so hard for justice. This story is a reminder that one act of courage can spark a wave of change. What do you think is the first step toward creating a fair justice system? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Together, we can make a difference. What would you do if someone underestimated you in the worst way possible, only to realize you held all the power to change their life forever?